G'day and welcome back to the channel. On this episode we are heading to the customer's place with the subframe, in which we're going to be making the modifications to get it ready to go back in the car. Alrighty, so as you can see, we are not in my Hilux, we're in my brother's Nissan Navara. He had it detailed by my father-in-law, so we're just taking that around his place to get the subframe worked on. So, as I've said in previous episodes with the 1275, the customer's going to modify the subframe to suit some special mods that he's decided to make for it. So you guys are probably wondering, what are we going to be doing? But you'll see that shortly. So let's head on around to his place and see what he's got in store. Alrighty, let's have a look, see if we can find his place. Hire Express. This will be him. Let's go in and see him. Let's have a look. It's a little bit brisky today. Put the subframe in the back of the car. Let's go see him. Let's go see this thing we've been working on for so long. Right. Hey mate.
G'day man, how you going?
Good mate, you?
Not bad, happy Sunday.
Yeah, same to you mate. Happy Bathurst Day.
Hey.
Alright, so this is Mark. We are going to be inspecting his Mini today and doing some mods to the rear subframe, so let's go check it out. Alright mate, you can do the honours. Have a look.
Woohoo! Look at that.
How good is it? Smooth, clean and crisp.
Brand new subframe, I'll tell you what, it's a little bit better than the one that I got in the backyard, eh?
Just a little bit.
I'll show you in a minute. It's essentially a pile of rust at the moment.
Yep.
Alright, you want to give us a hand getting it out?
Yeah,
or?
certainly. You also finally get to see this old girl that we're going to be restoring soon enough.
The body part of it anyway. You've seen the rest, everyone else has seen the rest.
Woohoo! How's this? Let's take a closer look.
So it's all up on stands at the moment because all the other parts are at your place.
Yeah. How good's this? Fabricated jig. Right down here. That's mad. That's the old steering rack, I take it?
That is the old steering rack with a brand new one inside.
Yeah. Look at this. Look at this. So we got some holes in the floor. We are going to be sending this thing down to the panel shop first before it comes to us. So we're going to get the whole thing repainted, as well as filled, sanded, anything that it really needs. It has had some paint work done, so hopefully there's not too many mods we need to do to get this thing back on the road. But look at those back doors. Look at this opening of the window. I've never seen a van stripped before. How cool is that?
I've just got the windows sitting in there at the moment.
Yep.
I've got all the glass.
Yep.
I've got the two back door glasses.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I bought new rubbers a couple of years ago, but they've since deteriorated. So I'm just going to, when it's time to get the windows fitted, I'm just going to buy all new rubbers at that point.
Oh, it's even got a sunroof.
Yeah, it's. I did that when I was 16 years old. I don't know how good it is. I've got a pile of parts here.
Yep.
I've got a brand new steering rack.
Wowzers. The short ratio one, the 2.2.
I'm not
lock
sure.
to lock, don't know.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, we'll find out soon enough, I guess. Mint. Hey, matching seatbelt.
Bright red seatbelts.
Yeah, sweet.
Should do the bit, do the part.
Yep.
And these seats are out of an old Suzuki Swift GTI. I think
The ones that you want to run. Yeah, it's going to take a bit of fab to do. We'll be able to make it work.
And this is pretty much a collection of all the parts that have come out of it over the years.
So how long have we had it for exactly?
I bought this car when I was 16 years old in 1992.
Yeah, right. So 20 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, 20,
no,
like
30.
30 years
Yeah,
now.
30. Yeah, jeez. Can't count.
Yeah, actually 30 years, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Terrific. All right. Well, let's check out these mods that you want to do, mate.
Right, so the general consensus is you've got cables that run down the car and they run through a little piece in the subframe. If you turn around and have a look here, the cables actually run through this piece.
Yep.
And it's a bit of a friction pull as it pulls around that corner, and then it goes into a nice set of brake quadrants.
Yep.
So my idea is to take the brake quadrants, I'd like to chop this bit out and actually mount that into the subframe on a fulcrum there, so that this actually pivots the same way that it would over here. So essentially all I'm going to do is create 2 pin placements here on the same radius as what that would be, and then use CAD quadrants, KAD quadrants, basically in that position.
Yeah, right. Okay.
And when we put the cable in there, I'll actually get the cable modified so that it's got the stop in it, and then that'll pull the quadrant round.
Yep. So we're going to get custom cables for it?
Well, brand new cables, and I'll just get the ball added to the cable, or I might just get a set of custom cables made up. Yeah.
Sweet.
So I've actually got a custom cable maker out in Liverpool.
Sweet.
So I might just get him to make up the whole thing.
Yep. That's Liverpool, Sydney, not UK.
Ah, yeah.
All right. So have we made these mods already to the old subframe? Like how do we know it's going to work?
I've got the old subframe here.
So one you prepared earlier?
Here's one I prepared earlier.
Ah, okay. There we go. Got a nut in there.
So I've taken that, folded it out of the way.
Yep.
And added that, and now this sits on the same, essentially the same point that was.
Sweet, okay.
Just like that.
So how'd you work out how far you needed it across? Or
basically where that sits is where that needs to sit, and I figure that it moves, I think it was 2 centimetres, 20 millimetres.
Yep.
So I just need to make sure that it sits there and pulls 20 millimetres before it straightens out.
Yep. Terrific. And then what, we're just going to run a washer between the nut and the CAD fitting?
I should have had this ready. I did have it set up, so I've got a dome bolt, so that there's no square head on the top, so that if it does happen to go past some grass or something, it doesn't actually like pull it along with it. It'll just skim across the top of the bolt. And I'm essentially going to put a bolt through there and put a lock nut on the bottom of it.
Yep.
Screw the bolt in and then tighten the lock nut up so that this is still flexible.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Between the bolt and the lock nut. Which
yeah, and that will just prevent it seizing.
That's exactly right, yep.
Yeah, sweet. Cool, alright, let's get into these mods, mate. Alrighty, Mike, so other than just wanting to buy a new subframe because we want everything to be new in the old girl, what was the reason why we can't reuse this old one?
So I suppose we could, but you see across the back of the subframe here, when it was in the car, it's obviously they've tied a piece of rope, or when they've towed it, they've used the back of the subframe to actually lock it into the car, or they've tried to pull a tree out or something, but they've tied something around the back of the subframe and it's actually pulled it and kinked the subframe.
Yeah, okay.
I considered straightening that back out.
Yep.
But then I thought it's going to change the geometry of the subframe. I thought I can cut this piece out and replace it with something new. In the back of a Civic, they've got those little triangular pieces. I could make something up like that, cut the back of the subframe out and weld something in like that. And I thought, okay, I've got to get to modifying the subframe. But then if you look over here, I reckon I could probably stick my finger through that.
Yeah, in no time.
So now I'm cutting this plate off, replacing this plate. It's getting to a point where I've jumped online, I've had a look for a new subframe. They're only about $500 for the actual frame, so I thought it was actually worth doing that.
Yep.
Now that we've actually received the subframe, there was about $500 postage in that. But, I think it's still better than using this subframe or modifying this subframe to the point where it's obviously been cleaned up for you because you can see all the grinder marks through it. And it won't be long before this side goes out, I imagine. So.
Yeah. And the fact as well that this is made in the 60s as well.
Yeah.
It hasn't been maintained all that well.
If we're going to spend the money on the components to go on the actual frame, I think I'd rather start off with a frame that's fundamentally good. So,
yep.
Yeah, made the decision to buy this.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good move, 100%. So what made you come up with this idea, and how long did it take you to make the mods to the old one to know that it's going to work?
It really only, because I was throwing around a subframe that I was about to chuck out. It took me about maybe 20 minutes.
Yeah.
But I think I'll take my time on this one.
Yeah.
Made up a little jig. It's basically a see-through jig.
Mm-hmm.
Should be able to sit that like that. Drill a hole there, and then flip this over. That should end up in exactly the same place as that one.
Alright.
So we just got to make sure we land between that wall and that wall, so that we're in a piece of meat that's...
Yep. Okay. And are these the only CAD brackets we have, or have you got other ones to go on the control arms as well? I bought 4.
So they're supposed to go on the control arms, so I've got 2 for the control arms, and then I've bought an extra 2 for the centre.
Okay. Some pretty good geometry you got there.
That'll throw out in exactly the same spot, and it'll pull in at exactly the same spot, and when it turns, we've got about 20mm of pull before it leaves the actual piece.
Yep. I think this might become a patent idea, mate. Might need to put some...
Jigs for sale.
4,000 quid per jig. So the next question is, how do we remove this as well? What do we do to remove that?
I'm just going to use a grinder. So it's made of spot welds, and I could drill the spot welds out, but that might actually create holes in the subframe that'll take away from its integrity. So I'm just going to essentially grind the sheet metal off and grind it flat.
So what size nutsert are we using to fit it?
The bolts that fit through perfectly are actually an 8mm, so I'm using an 8mm king chrome nutsert.
Yeah, sweet. Okay. So what is a nutsert exactly? What does it do? How does it function?
Nutsert works exactly the same as a pop rivet. It's just got a thread in the centre of it. So
okay.
And I'll waste one just for the
demonstration.
Just for a demo. You've essentially got a pop riveter.
Yep.
You open it up and screw that on.
Yep.
And when you squeeze it together,
yeah, right. So it compresses it. Okay.
It's there, and your sheet metal actually gets stuck in there.
Yep.
So you can see with that compressed now.
Yep.
I compare it to what it's not.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, so it compresses it in and squashes it in there.
That's it. And
but enables it also to have a nut on the underside.
You now have
A threaded section.
A thread that's flat.
Yep. And then once that's in, that's permanently in there?
It will be, yeah. You can always drill it out, but
yep.
It's essentially in there for good.
Terrific. So we put it in there, put the tool in there, compress it, and then it's in there.
And then it's in there.
Cool. obviously once it's compressed, it can't move in or out.
No, it can't, no, and it can't turn.
Yep.
It can turn if you kind of
really swing on it.
And, yeah, swing on it. For the amount of force that this is going to have laterally, it won't turn.
Terrific. I guess as well, in a way, it's like a Dynabolt.
Dynabolt with no bolts in it? Yeah, and you actually put the bolts in it. Yeah.
Yep.
Better not put the used one in there.
Definitely not, that's not going to work. Yeah, she's in there nice and firm.
You could get the same effect by cutting a square, welding a metal bracket into it, a metal piece into it, and then threading the metal piece. But nuts it.
Yeah. I guess this also gives you the option and opportunity to put a bolt anywhere you want it to, or a nut.
Anywhere you want. Yeah.
Anywhere you want, and it make it flush as well, or next to being flush. You don't have the stress of trying to drill a hole, put a thread inside it yourself, weld a nut on there. Everything's encapsulated. There's no drama. Just quickly off topic, these two nuts that are in here, this is for the rear exhaust mount. So on mine, as you saw in one of my previous videos when I did the COVID lockdown, one of these are completely let go. So I've only got one bolt, one nut holding the bolt, I guess.
You could drill it out and use a nutset.
That's a very good point. Depending how big the hole is and if it's repairable as well. So I think this section has actually come right away from it.
Right.
So I might have to put a plate in there and then nutset it.
Because it's only an exhaust mount, you could actually put a nutset into a plate, and then with the plate across, you could use that hold for the nutset to go in and then screw the plate on elsewhere.
Yep. As you can see, this thing's been sitting for quite some time. It's in fairly good condition. And there's a bit of brake fluid deterioration around there. Inner wing panel seems to be okay. Door hinges probably need to be replaced. The rear end is a bit how you going, but we'll suss it out when it gets to the panel meters. So with these brake lines, Mark, are we going to reuse any of these? Any of the original stuff that's in there?
So at the end of the day, this is going to be an old body with all brand new parts in it.
Perfect.
So anything that doesn't have to be original that I can replace.
Yep.
I don't want to upgrade everything. I want to upgrade as much as possible, but a lot of stuff like the standard brake lines I'm probably going to replace.
Yep.
They are brand new. I did replace them when I was 16 years old. But as I get older, I realise how stupid a little 16-year-old I was back then. So I think we might just redo them.
Yeah, no, good point. So what are we doing here, mate? What are you attempting to do?
I'm just going to grind off the old plate that the cables are supposed to slide through.
Yep.
I'm just going to put a new blade on the grinder.
Yep.
Can't find my tool, so I'll teach you a cool trick for taking your grinder blade off.
Yep.
Lock up the wheel. Put it on the ground and spin it. This will damage the old blade, so make sure they go straight in the bin. Don't use it later.
Yep. That's it.
Done.
So that's Mark's tech tip.
Mark's tech tip. Trying to dig down to where the spot welds are.
Yep.
So essentially, it's not exactly how it works, but if you were to drill a hole in that and then fill it up with weld, that little one point will actually be holding this plate down. So they've done that in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different points. So all I've essentially got to do is get rid of those 6 points and this plate will fall off.
Yeah, right, okay.
So I'm just bending this up just to expose those points as much as I can. And this feels sacrilegious to do this to a brand new subframe. Alright, put your headphones on, everybody.
So next step now, Mark, are we going to be giving this a bit of paint just to stop it rusting any further, or
I probably
what's the
could
plan?
paint over it, but I'm not sure how long this finish on this will last.
Yep.
I'm going to send it to powder coat just to coat the whole thing, just to reassure myself that this is going to last 10 years with a powder coat on it.
Yep.
There's a little spot down here where I can see that the finish has come off, so it makes me think that this is just paint.
Yep.
So I'm going to send it off to powder coat. He's going to sandblast the entire thing back to fresh steel, and then he'll put a layer of powder coat on it, which is like a chip resistant, rust resistant powder coating.
Yeah, sweet. A bit more heavy duty as well.
Exactly. So the way I'm going to put these things together, I figure if I put that on there and put a bolt thread into it, I can tighten that up in a way that that won't be able to move on the bolt, and that's not what I want. I want that to actually spin freely on the bolt.
Yep.
Because there's a little bit of flex in there, what I'm going to do is put a washer just so that can spin freely on there.
Yeah, nice.
Second washer on the bottom just to double up the effect.
Yep. I guess also that prevents the bolt rubbing on the arm itself as well.
So there's no actual binding. That'll be fixed. That'll be moving, and that'll be kind of semi-permanent in between the two.
Yep.
So as long as I tighten that up to a point where it's tight and then loosen it off a little bit, just a tad, that'll actually now move. Probably go a little bit looser than that.
Yep.
And there's no sideways flex in it.
As well, so long as the bolt is done up tight enough in the...
Well, that's what the lock nut's for. So this is a nut and this is a nut, so I'll be able to take that nut and twist them together.
Yep.
So that so I'll actually do that now.
As you said, it only needs to move 20 mil really, so...
It does, yeah.
So long
it's only
as
a back and forth. It's not like it spins in situ.
Yeah. It's not like a CV joint where it's going up and down.
Yeah, 100 miles an hour.
Yep.
It'll never actually do a full circle.
Correct.
Okay, so...
Yeah, okay. So you can see even now how freely that's going to be able to spin, so...
It spins freely. I'm going to tighten it down till it stops moving.
Yep.
And then I'm going to undo the nut, undo that, and tighten the nut again.
Yeah, right. So that now can spin freely. Terrific. How good's that?
Do the same thing with the second one.
So do you think this is a mod someone could do in their own car while it's on the car?
Absolutely, yeah. This can be done. So we've actually flipped the subframe upside down. We're drilling just because we've just bought the subframe and it's sitting on the bench.
Yep.
If this was in someone's car, if it was on a hoist or on a set of jacks,
yep,
you could just drill straight up. Like this is actually underneath the car.
Yeah, okay. As long as you got all the right tools and you got a spare set of CAD arms.
The nut certs, I've got a special tool for the nut certs, but you essentially can buy a set of nut certs for $10 down at Bunnings. You put the nut cert in, you put a bolt in there, and then you actually just tighten the nut, and the nut will actually bring the bolt up and squish the nut cert without the tool.
Okay. Yep.
So if you're only doing it once or twice, there's no need to buy the entire tool.
Yeah.
I just I use a lot of nut certs. So.
Yep.
So that's tight and locked up. Loosen the nut. And tighten the bolt back up.
How's that?
Should have two that are...
Once it's got the tension on there as well.
It will. I'm just gonna for the fun of it, see if I can get another.
Just a smidge tighter.
I'm actually going to pull these off when I send it to powder coat, but just for the...
So you're going to leave them red to match the car?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So anyone checking out this car, once we get on the road, it would be really cool to have a look underneath and see some of the really interesting stuff that we've made underneath the car.
I'm hoping it looks like a shit box with lots of race car parts on it. You'll probably edit that video out. So I reckon that looks the part. What do you reckon?
Yep, that's mint. So guys, let us know in the comments below if you reckon this mod is any good and if it's going to work the way that we intended to. So, and yeah, if you guys want to be interested in doing the same thing, Also let us know. We'll go check out your Instagram or your Facebook page, or even not Instagram video, a YouTube video of what you've done to your own car to make these sort of modifications. But if you think it's a cool mod, make sure you leave it in the comments below and let us know.
Just a comparison between the old and the new. So that's where the old would have been. And that's where the new is. Same height, same distance apart.
Yep.
It's just that now when the cable runs through, it doesn't drag through. It actually frictionlessly slides on those.
Mm-hmm. All right, so that's the episode. So moving forward, Michael, what is the next plan of attack? What are we doing with this? Are we going to build the brakes first? Are you going to send this down? Are we getting the car painted? What's the deal? What do you want to do?
All right, so the next step in the process was to build the subframe.
Yep. Let's just come around and have a look.
Because we couldn't get any further with this, we got stuck on this. We decided to buy this, and there's been about a month waiting for this to get here and trying to work out what we were going to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
Now that we've got that, we're essentially building that out of that.
Yep.
While Tomo's off building the rear subframe, I'm going to get the body sent to a body repair. There's a couple of little bits of rust and stuff in it.
As to be expected.
I need to get where the old master cylinder's been sitting over the years. It's actually dripped down and it's ruined the paint in the engine bay, so I'm going to get the whole engine bay stripped.
Yep.
My main focus is, because we're working so much on the mechanics, this is going to be filled with an engine, and once the engine's in, I don't want to have to try and do body work, so I'm going to get all the engine bay, not the outside, just the engine bay prepped for when the engine goes in.
Yep.
I'm going to get all the inside of the doors and the back of the dashboard spray painted, so that when we put all the wiring in and put all the door components in, we don't have to worry about ever pulling that apart.
Yep.
I'm not going to worry about the paint on the outside. I'm not sure at this point if I'm ever going to worry about the paint on the outside.
Okay.
I'm just going to keep it looking like an older car.
Yep.
And people look at it and think it's an old car, but then when you pop the bonnet, it's going to be all brand new components.
Yep, that's fair.
So yeah, main focus at the moment is getting the subframe finished off with all new brakes, and getting the body done in the meantime.
Mm-hmm. And we did talk at one stage about doing a disc brake conversion on the back. Is that still something we're going to be looking at, or are we going to be keeping it as drum brakes?
There's an issue with having disc brakes on the front with drum brakes on the back and the brake pedal, and it'll actually have a good bias naturally. If I put disc brake upgrades on the back, I feel like the brake pedal is going to make the car too even, and I'm going to have to put a bias system in there to put more load onto the front wheels. So I think, as terrible as it sounds, we're going to do discs on the front and drums on the back, just for the balance that the car has naturally.
Yep.
I don't think I'm going to have any issue with too much weight in the car and not being able to pull it up with the back.
Yep.
There was a disc brake system that actually had 2 calipers on it. One for the braking system, which I could put a bias on, and then we were going to do a hydraulic handbrake, which would have been really cool for handbrakies.
Yep.
And just the weight value of having a brake system that good on the back would have been awesome.
Yep.
But it got to the point where the components to do the handbrake and all the addition, and then we went into the bias, and it got pretty complicated for what the end result would have been, a worse brake pedal under driving and under load. So,
and the expense as well. We spoke at it, being upwards of $4,000.
It wasn't so much the expense, because I think we're going to spend $3,000 doing the disc brakes or $4,000 doing the brake upgrade. It's more the finished result and what that brake pedal is going to feel like when you're driving, and having the car shift sideways or having it pull up straight.
Yep. So. Yeah. So long term.
So I think at the end of the day, we're just going to go a good set of disc brakes.
Yep.
And that brought us back to the cable handbrake was going to be a bit iffy, and that's where we've led off into this system where we're trying to make the cable in the handbrake work better than a standard one.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, mate, let's come together. Let's work out what we're going to do with the rear subframe, with all the components, the brakes, what we need to fix it. As he said, we're probably going to go through and just rebuild the entire thing, get as many new components as we possibly can. If we can reuse the rear radius arms and just ream them, that would be perfect. Other than that, yeah, all new suspension bushes, and yeah, you'll see it right here, guys, on another episode. We'll see you then.
Stay tuned.